Now that you understand the tip life issue with lead-free solder, let's examine the other factors that are involved in tip damage and what we can do to minimize or avoid them. These factors include oxidation buildup, overuse of tip tinners, using the wrong temperature settings, excessive pressure, incorrect tip geometry, feeding solder into the tip, and mechanical damage. Let's start with oxidation buildup. Soldering iron tip oxidation occurs naturally when the iron is exposed to the air during the soldering process. If the tip is oxidized or contaminated, the solder will not stick to it. This is known as dewetting. Flux is used to clean the oxidation from the tip so that when solder is applied, it wets to the iron tip. When oxides form on a soldering iron tip, the tip performance is degraded. Oxides create a barrier that decreases the heat transfer from the tip to the connection. If the tip is not cleaned and tinned before putting the iron into the stand, the oxides can build up and render the tip unusable. The tip must then be scrapped or reconditioned. Tinning the tip is the best way to combat oxidation. The tinning process begins with the application of solder onto the working surface of the hot soldering iron tip. The solder coats the tip, forming a barrier that prevents oxygen from reacting with the tip. The flux in RMA cord solder improves this tinning process by breaking down any oxides already present on the tip and allowing oxides to float to the surface of the solder. Because of the reduced solids and lower activity of low residue flux cord solder, it is not as effective at tinning the tip as other types of flux cord solder. Since tips are now more prone to oxidation, proper tip maintenance is more important than ever. Proper tip maintenance involves one of two methods: either wiping the tip on a slightly damp, sulfur-free sponge, or dabbing it on a brass pad made specifically for hand soldering. After wiping the tip, always apply a fresh coating of solder to the tip before placing the iron in the holder. The way you store soldering irons when out of use is also important.